Okay. So you recently learned how to, or remembered how to factor by grouping. This one, there's 4 terms, so there's an even amount of terms. So that means I can factor by grouping. So I'm going to do that. So then, and I'm going to set it equal to 0 because I want to solve for it. So I'm going to put 0 right here. 0 equals, and I'm going to factor out an x cubed. So that would be x minus 1. If I multiply these two, I get that. If I multiply these two, I get that. Then I'm going to factor out a 25x over here. So we're going to have x minus 1. If I multiply these two, I get that. If I multiply these two, I get that. So it's kind of like the backward distributed property. Then I know that this is going to be x minus 1, x minus 1. That's what they have in common. I'm going to put that in one set of parentheses. Leftover stuff, or the stuff outside the parentheses, is x cubed plus 25x. So now I have two factors. I'm going to let them equal to 0. And this is easy to solve. So we have x equals 1. Remember, we need 4 solutions. Then we have x cubed plus 25x equals 0. Notice that this one, we don't know how to solve a cube. Okay? So that means that I probably have to factor it again. So yes, both of these have an x, so I'm going to factor out an x, so that's going to be x squared plus 25 equals 0. So now we're going to set that factor equal to 0, x equals 0, and x squared plus 25 equals 0. So it's kind of like a repetitive process. So I have 1, 2 answers. I need 2 more. So now I'm going to subtract. This is a quadratic, so I know how to solve a quadratic. Or you should know how. And that's going to be negative 25 over here. We're going to take the square root on both sides, and it's plus or minus square root of negative 25. So that cancels with that. That's going to be x equals plus or minus 5i. So then here you have a positive 5i and a negative 5i. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4. You have 2 reals and 2 imaginary answers. So that's good because they should add up to 4. Okay. Let's do number 3 over here. Number 3. We have a to the 4th plus 10a squared plus 9. This is a trinomial. So I'm going to factor a times c. So 1, this is your a, b, c. So then I'm going to factor. So I'm going to try to factor this. 1 times 9 is 9. And 2 numbers that add up to 10 is 9 plus 1. And when you multiply them, they make 9. So you're going to have 0 is equal to a squared plus 9, a squared plus 1. Now we have to put square because you have a to the 4th. Okay? So now we make each factor equal to 0. A squared plus 9 equals 0. A squared plus 1 equals 0. Subtract the 9 in this case. So that's a squared equals negative 9. And I'm going to take the square root on both sides. So right here I'm going to take the square root of a squared plus or minus the square root of negative 9. So then these cancel, so that's going to be a is equal to plus or minus 3i. Remember, you can't take the square root of a negative. You have to make it imaginary. Same thing over here, minus 1, minus 1. That's going to be a squared equals negative 1. Take the square root of a squared is equal to plus or minus the square root of negative 1. Okay, so now that's going to be, these cancel. So a is equal to plus or minus I. So you should have 4 solutions because you have a to the 4th power. So you have, and actually all of these are imaginary. So you're going to have 3i, negative 3i, I, and negative I. Okay, those are your 4 solutions. Go ahead and go to the next video for the following ones.